Stream, I'm gonna be doing an explanation slash walking you guys through my like thinking when I was making my top 10 list. I know there was a lot of confusion with the top 10 list. Some people are wondering why there's no like some of the greatest monsters in the game like Barbatos, Voltaik, Zyla. Why are there no attackers? Some people think it's a deny list. So I'm gonna be addressing all of that in this stream. So thank you to all of you who can make it. And I might potentially be recording this also, so hopefully the quality of the stream is still good. And I want to record it to make a concise video for those of you that aren't able to be in the stream. But I mean, obviously you can't hear me if you're not in the stream. So I'm just going to make sure all my settings are fine before I continue. So I hope you guys can hear me fine. I hope the background music is fine. And the way I'm going to structure this stream is, first, before I answer any questions, I'm going to walk you guys through my process. I'm going to tell you guys what I did, what I analyzed, what I went through to come up to the conclusion that I did and decided who the top 10 were. And after that, I'm going to open it up to questions. And then after that, I'm going to play through the video I made and I'm going to discuss why each individual monster is actually the place I placed them. So let me make sure. The stream appears to be fine. And I'm just going to wait a bit just so it can show up on my end. I know there's a delay, so just give me a sec, guys. Just want to make sure everything is perfect before I start. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, and for those of you wondering, I will be making the Team Shot update. I actually just logged into the game a couple hours ago, and like, wow, Social Point just really threw a curveball at us. All these new stuff in Team Shop, new monsters, different prices. What else? We have cells, we have runes. It is just a crazy large rune shop, Team Shop. It's crazy. Alright, I'm still waiting on. My laptop has failed me. This is why I need a second monitor. Let me see if I can access YouTube over here. Go to YouTube, go to my channel. Go to live stream. And there we go. Okay, perfect. Someone said there is no background music. Is there? Can you not hear the background music? Let me raise the volume up a bit. Okay, so there's 50 people in the stream, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and start. So one of the main concerns I got when I released my list, I got a lot of people asking me to make an attacker list because this was clearly a deny list. So many people said that, and I think I have to emphasize, I really did my best to make an overall best monster list, not just a deny list. I know it may seem like I put a lot of deny monsters, but I think the truth is that deny monsters are technically better than attackers, no matter what. That's just what it is. So to give you guys an analogy, suppose, like, okay, you have a spoon and you have a fork. Those are two different utensils that obviously serve different purposes. You can't really compare the two. The same can be said with Monster Legends. You can't really compare deniers and attackers. But let's just suppose, let's suppose that 90% of the food in the world could be eaten with a fork. In that case, since only 10% can be handled with a spoon, you could technically argue that the fork is superior, even though they serve different purposes. It's the same thing in Monster Legends. You have attackers and you have deny monsters. And deny monsters, they're absolutely needed in the game. Without deny monsters, attackers wouldn't be able to attack. Okay, I'm looking at chat and I'm seeing a few people have problems, which really sucks because I wanted this stream to go smoothly. but I am just going to continue, hoping that everything turns out fine. So as I was saying, in Monster Legends, you can kind of think of Deny monsters as forks. They're superior than attackers. So I'm going to show you guys this picture where we have immobilizers on the left side and we have attackers on the right side. So Frostbite, Violet, Krampus, and we have Barbatos, Voltaik, General Omniscient. You know, 3 really good attackers, 3 really good Deny monsters. If this was Monster Legends battle, who do you think would win? I mean, it's pretty clear that the Deny monsters would win easily. And that's just because they can deny the attackers from attacking. So that's kind of the point I'm trying to get across, that yes, a good team of Monster Legends involves both deny and attackers, but if you only had to choose deny monsters, you could easily win. If you only had to choose attackers, that's not the case, because the enemy would be able to deny you, and then you'd basically lose. You wouldn't get an attack in. So following that same logic, there's different ways to talk about who is the best monster. We can talk about who's the best in PvP, who's the best in adventure map, who's the best for team wars, who's the best for team wars offensively and defensively, who's the best to rank up, who's the best overall. Should we include VIP monsters since they're not free, they cost 20 bucks? There's like so many different ways that to actually encompass what best means. So the way I interpret best is that the monster that is best suited for team wars. And that's because if a monster is good for team wars, they're obviously going to be good for player versus player. And that's because in team wars, you don't always get the best like team combination possible. It's rather random. You know, you get 1 rarity and 2 elements. So when I'm analyzing my top monsters, I like to think of scenarios that are really terrible. So to give you guys one example, let's suppose that you had common, thunder, and fire. Okay? Fire monsters do not really have a deny monster, a good monster with an AoE deny skill. Thunder monsters do. They have Tempest. Tempest has AoE stun. So if the requirement was common, thunder, fire, how many of you would honestly pick Voltaik to be on your team? If you were to pick Voltaik, I have to say that would be a mistake, because the enemy, if they had an all-speed Tempest, they'd potentially go first and stun you, and then they'd have a huge advantage. Yes, Voltaik has Hardened. He could potentially like ignore the stun, but on average, deny monsters are better. To give you guys another example, think of Dark Fire Common. Would you really run Barbatos with the Dark Fire Common war restriction? I would hope not. I would hope you ran someone like Krampus, like one of the best deny monsters in the game. So that's kind of the idea I'm trying to get around. Yes, attackers are amazing, but attackers aren't that good without a proper deny monster on the team. And in team wars, that's not always the case. In PvP, of course, you get to choose the absolute best outcome for you. You can choose the most ideal situation. So going on that, let me see what I have here on my notes. So I just want to emphasize that the key to Monster Legends is to run a deny monster. And if you don't believe me, I've done some PvP requests where I did only attackers because that's what was requested, and I lost. I just got completely annihilated. But if you want to, you can try it yourself. Run 3 attackers in player versus player and see how often you win, and run 3 deny monsters and see how often you win. I guarantee you that you are going to have an easier chance winning with 3 mobilizers as opposed to 3 attackers. Yeah, and again, of course, yes, in Team Wars, the most ideal situation is to have 1 deny and 1 attacker. But that's what I'm saying. In Team Wars, when we're encompassing every single monster, you can have a restriction like Fire and Dark, Fire and Thunder, where the best case is not to run an attacker at all. It's to run a deny monster. And just real quickly, for those of you that are joining the stream and don't know what a deny monster is, they're also known as immobilizers. They're the monsters on the left-hand side. It's basically a monster that has a skill like AoE Stun, AoE Freeze, AoE Possession, and all it does is it prevents the enemy monsters from attacking you. And what an attacker is, it's basically simple. It's a monster that has a high power, strong skills, and they're just meant to attack. Okay, so going off on that, right? I talked about immobilizers and attackers. Let's talk about skills. So I think one really important thing to do when ranking the top monsters, you know, it's an extremely subjective thing to actually do. To say this monster is the best, this monster is the best, that's not easy to do because there's so many different scenarios, so many different possibilities. But what I think the fairest way to do it is to establish guidelines, and as long as you stick to those guidelines for every single monster, then you can come up with a more objective list of the top monsters. Because I know what a lot of people love to do, they like to put in bias, they like to put in their preference. They like to say, well, I like Frostbite, so Frostbite should be 1. I like Voltaik, so Voltaik should be number 1. But I just gave you a scenario where Voltaik would not help you so much. But yeah, it's just when I want to get around. You need to establish a guideline. And for my guideline, I'm just going to walk you guys through my entire guideline, and then maybe this will help you guys understand why I've selected the monsters I did. So the first thing I want to talk about are skills. What are the best skills a monster should have? So let me activate that. The best possible skills a monster can have, and this is of course my interpretation, and I'll explain the pros and the cons. It has to do with just based on like my experience playing and based on what I've seen people post. This is what I think the best skills are. The number 1 skill a monster can have is a stamina drain skill, specifically 100% stamina drain. I think we're all familiar with General Thetys. AoE 100% stamina drain. The best thing about this skill is that no monster is immune to this. Not even the infamous Timerion that has Artifact. No monster is immune to this. This is a guaranteed deny skill. Now the bad thing about this skill is that unfortunately the enemy can hit you with their special skill. And I know it seems that whenever we use General Thetys, it's for some reason it just appears that the enemy always gets their special skill. But keep in mind, there's only a 5% chance for that to actually happen. What I think happens is that we're so used to stunning and freezing that the enemy never gets a chance to use their special skill, that when we do stamina drain, now they actually do it and we're like, whoa, it's rigged. But no, really, stamina drain is the best. No monster is immune to it. So that might kind of explain why Frostbite and Thetys, I ranked them like 2 and 3 and not lower, even though their speed is pretty bad. So after stamina drain is possession. So why is possession so good? The best thing about possession, like it's incredibly good, is because you are essentially going to be playing with 4 monsters for 1 turn. You are taking control of the enemy's monster, and then that enemy monster is wasting their own stamina to either give your team a buff or to attack their own teammate. That is crazy good. Also, if the enemy happens to use their special, they're going to be using the special against their own teammate. But even if they just use a regular attack, what they're doing, besides attacking their teammate, they've also used up an attack, which means before they can use that attack again, they have to cool down. So that's awesome. They waste stamina, they attack their teammate, they have to cool down their attack. So that's why I rank possession above freeze and stun. Now the bad thing about possession is that 15 monsters have immunity to possession, and it actually might be 16 now because of Nishan's pet. I was just looking at him recently. But yeah, there's 16 monsters as of the time I made the video, and if you count Timerion having Artifact, that's actually 16 monsters that are immune to possession. Another good thing about possession though that I forgot to mention is that you can do back-to-back possessions. So let's move on to freeze. The cool thing about freeze is that you can do back-to-back freeze. This is also like possession and unlike stun. And like similar with stun, you can't get hit with a special like you can with stamina drain. And that's because when you freeze a monster, you completely immobilize them. The only bad thing to freeze is that 8 monsters are immune to freeze, 7 of which are water monsters, and the other one being... Actually, no. 6 monsters have immunity to freeze, and then there's Timerion that has Artifact, and then there's Oros that has Mountain, and Mountain you're immune to stun and freeze. And after freeze, I would rank stun as being like the 4th best skill to have. And stun is very similar to freeze, except stun has a little... There's more problems with stun. For one, you can't do back-to-back stun. After you stun a monster, that monster gets immunity to stun. And furthermore, there are 20 monsters that have immune to stun. If you count Oros, that's 21. And if you count Timerion, that's 22 monsters that are immune to stun. So for my guideline, I said Stamina Drain is the best skill a monster can possibly have, followed by Possession, followed by Freeze, followed by Stun. So I hope you guys are all following me there. I'm going to continue with more skills, and what I like to refer to them as like hidden gems. There are monsters that have really good skills. It's not common with every monster, but these skills are just absolutely amazing. One of those skills is Mega Stun. Mega Stun goes through stun, and it stuns for 2 turns. So you can think of those 22 monsters that are immune to stun. Actually, 21. You know, Timerion's immune to everything except Stamina Drain. Those 21 monsters that are immune to stun, they won't be immune to Mega Stun. So Mega Stun is an example of a really good skill. And we have Time Stop, which is Timerion's one of his deny skills. He basically immobilizes any monster. No one's immune to Time Stop. And then we have Corrupted, which basically goes through any possession. So of those 15 monsters that have immunity to possession, Corrupted can go through the possession and basically possess. It's basically a possess skill with a different name that goes through possession. And these are just some examples. It's not all the hidden gems. Like Timerion, for example, he's like a mine of hidden gems. He has like cooldowns activated, loop damage, space time, but these are just some examples of really good skills that I took into consideration when making my top 10 list. And next we have traits. And this is what I consider the hierarchy of traits. So first off, the best trait to have in the game is Artifact. It's Timerion's skill, it's Timerion's trait, and that basically means he's immune to any negative effect. After Artifact, we have Oros, which is Mountain. Mountain makes a monster immune to freeze and immune to stun. After that, immunity to freeze is the best, and that's because you don't want to be back-to-back frozen. After immunity to freeze, you want immunity to stun. That one's pretty obvious. If you get stunned, you can't do anything. And then lastly, I would say it's immune to possession. And the reason immune to possession is technically the worst out of these 5 traits to have is because when the AI possesses you, all you have to do is recharge. You know, it's not a problem for you to recharge. It's one of the best skills for you to actually use against the AI because the AI is dumb and they'll attack their own teammate. But if the AI uses possession on you, all you have to do is recharge. So immune to possession, it's not the best out of these 5. And then on a separate category, we have the VIP monsters trait Bulwark, which is a 50% immunity to all negative effects. Then we have the generals and some of their pets, Tough, minus 35% immunity to negative effects. And lastly, we have Hardened, which is what a lot of monsters have. Lots of earth monsters. Voltaik has it too. It's a 20% immunity to negative effects. So this is my hierarchy of list. So just to go over it really fast, let me do a quick summary, a quick review. We have immobilizers versus attackers. Immobilizers tend to be better than attackers. That's just a given. Then we have skills. Stamina Drain is better than Possession, which is better than Freeze, which is better than Stun. And then we have hidden gems, and these are just really good skills to look out for. Mega Stun, Corrupted, Time Stop, and again, these are examples. There's a few others. And for traits, the best traits to have: Artifact, Mountain, Immune to Freeze, Immune to Stun, Immune to Possession, and then Bulwark, Tough, Hardened. So the last thing we need to discuss for the guidelines are stats. So let me move on to stats. For stats, we have speed, power, life, and stamina. Now the number one stat, and many people would agree, is speed. And the reason it's speed is because deny monsters need speed. If a monster has a higher base speed, then the likelihood of you going first is greater. So clearly, if we're just talking about like an equal playing field, if all monsters had level 10 runes, the monster with the highest base speed would benefit the most. And actually, if a monster has a higher base speed, he can potentially go before another monster, even if that monster has higher runes if his base speed is lower. For example, Krampus is the fastest deny monster. The fastest deny monster with an AoE, I should say. He's the fastest deny monster with an AoE with a base speed of like 3,531, something like that. Other deny monsters don't come close to him, which means that if Krampus had 3 level 9 runes compared to another deny monster having 3 level 10 runes, Krampus would still probably go first. So that's why having a base speed is so important, a high base speed. And after speed, we have power and life. Honestly, for deny monsters, these could be arguably interchangeable. I think I would want my deny monster to have higher life, so it has a greater chance of surviving, and then power. But if we're talking about attackers, then the most important stat becomes power. But again, because this is the hierarchy of like the top 10 monsters, and it tends to revolve around deny monsters, speed is at the top, and then really power and life, even though I put power on top, those can be interchangeable easily. So now that I talked about all my guidelines and I'm going to review it really quickly, the number one thing when deciding my top 10 monsters is I looked which monsters are absolutely needed, and unfortunately no attacker fits that criteria. Like I said, looking at like the picture in front of me, the monsters on the left could easily beat the monsters on the right, even though none of them are attackers. And you know what? If you had a team of 3 deny monsters, you could honestly give one deny monster all speed runes, the next monster 2 speed and a strength, and you can give the last deny monster all strength runes. And if we're talking about level 10 strength runes, your deny monster would be a pretty kick-ass attacker. Let's just be fair, like a strength rune increases a monster by over 100%. It increases their power by over 100%. So if you give any monster 3 level 10 strength runes, they're basically going to be an attacker. So this is why the emphasis was on deny monsters. I know a lot of you are upset about that and you feel that this is a denied list, but in my opinion, I really tried to take away bias and preference, and as much as I like Barbatos and Voltaik, I really didn't see a place for them in the top 10 overall list. Now, I will be making a top 10 attackers just because so many people have requested that, but that is something I want you guys to keep in mind. This is not a top 10 deny list. This is really what I tried to make a top 10 overall. And some of you may have caught on because I do have Sarah in there, I do have Glitch, and you might be wondering, well, these monsters aren't really deny monsters. How can this be a top 10 deny list? So if you caught that, thank you so much. I really did try my best to make it an overall. So at this point, I will be taking questions. So I'm gonna wait a bit for the chat to actually catch up, and I will be taking any questions. But after this, I will actually be watching my own video, and I guess I'll kind of be reacting to it, and I'll let you guys know why every monster is in the place they are. So actually, let me open up one thing right here. So I have the chat open. You guys can see it right there. Let's see. So a few people are agreeing with me. Speed really is everything, especially when we're talking about deny monsters. Like, if you guys don't believe me, try it out in PvP. Go out with all attackers and then go out with all deny monsters and see what happens. There's going to be a huge difference. Or you can just watch my PvP request. People request all sorts of teams, and there have been some that have been all attackers and I have completely lost. So I'm waiting around. I'm not seeing any questions. I hope the guideline was clear. It was really intended to be as fair as I could think it would be. Okay, so I'm not seeing much questions. I'm gonna just move forward. Let me go ahead and close the chat. Okay, I am seeing questions now, but guys, keep it in mind, this is completely about the top 10 list. This isn't about Team Wars. This isn't about is monster A or B worth it. This is completely about, I think I said Team Wars. This is about the top 10 monsters. I want questions about top 10. Was there anything unclear with my guidelines? Was there anything that you disagree with or something you agree with? I'd like to know about that. So, because I'm not seeing too many questions, I am gonna just start playing the video, and then you guys will see why I selected every monster I selected. So let me go ahead and bring that up. So put up my video. And let me play that right now. So Monster Legends, top 10 legendary monsters. Please keep in mind, in the right situation, any monster can be the best. I always feel the need to put that disclaimer because it is true. Being the best is extremely subjective, and it really depends on a situation to situation basis. And like I said, just because a monster is not on the list, it doesn't mean that monster is not good. There's plenty of monsters that are good. Keep in mind, it's only top 10. There's like over 150 monsters. There's no way that only 10 of them are good. This list is constructed by analyzing only stats and skills and traits. First, I want to say armor. What the heck? Why can't you spell constructed? And why can't you spell analyzing? Yeah, I kind of rushed this video. I misspelled quite a bit of words. So, please forgive me on that. What is this? Pause? What is this? Pause the video and comment which monster you think will make the top 10. So, thank you to those of you that actually comment. I always like reading your guys' opinion and seeing what you guys have to say. So, the number 1 monster is, or the number 10 monster is Violet. She took 10th place. And now you might be wondering, why Violet? So let me scroll over to her actual stats. Nope, that's not stats. Let me go over to Violet. So here we have Violet. The reason Violet is 10th place is because she has a speed of 3,454, which is one of the highest speeds in the game. But she also has immune to possession. And when we look at skills, she has an AoE possession skill. Keep in mind, I said possession is one of the best things. She also has a 50% possession skill, an AoE also. And if you're probably wondering, well, what about Mechamancer? Mechamancer has the same speed. When we look at Mechamancer, it's true, he has the same speed. He also has possession, or he has AoE possession. Where's that at? AoE possession, right here. Possession, damage reduction, AoE. He also has a secondary possession skill that gives double damage to the enemy, which can come in handy. But the problem with Mechamancer was that he had immune to magnetizing, which is not good considering if you were to fight like Darks or Magics who have possession skills, who are faster than Mechamancer, you'd be in serious trouble. So for that reason, I thought Violet deserved the 10th place. And you're probably thinking, but Armor, you said possession is one of the best things possible, which is true, but I also mentioned speed is one of the best things a monster can have. And unfortunately, Violet's speed does not compare with some of the other monsters in this list. So let me move on to the next monster. So we gotta watch the video for that. And let's see who the next monster was. Next monster is Cavenfish, a favorite of many. And you're probably thinking, Armor, how the heck can you put Cavenfish in 9th place? Cavenfish is overpowered. He has a stun skill. He has a free skill, both of which are AoE. He has a 0 cooldown 50% stun. Or is it freeze? That works against Timerion. And you know what, guys? You are completely right on that. Cavenfish by far is one of the best monsters in the game. In fact, if you look at his speed, 3454, Violet 3454, same speed, which is why Cavenfish placed in front of Violet. And the reason I put Cavenfish in front is because he has immune to freeze, which is perfect going up against water monsters. And of course, he has his AoE stun and freeze, which works against a Violet. So clearly, Cavenfish versus Violet, I think Cavenfish would give you the best advantage, because you can immobilize twice. Heck, you might even potentially immobilize 3 times, and just really good immunity to have. Like I said, having immune to possession, although it's a good thing to have, it doesn't really help you, because if you ever get possessed, you can just recharge. So we have Violet down, we have Cavenfish down. Let's see who's next. Hold on a sec, sorry I missed that. So next was Mommy, right? Let me go over to monster analysis. And now you're wondering why Mommy. So comparing Mommy to the previous monster, which was Cavenfish, Cavenfish had a speed of 3454. Mommy, superior speed, 3465. Mommy is faster. Mommy is immune to possession, which is a good skill to have. But Mommy also has an AoE stun. So that can work against Cavenfish and against Violet and against a lot of monsters. Yes, a lot of monsters are also immune to stun, but aside from that, Mommy is also pretty versatile because she has 2 possession skills. You need to eat and go to your room. So not only can she AoE stun, she also has possession when she needs to. and she boasts a really nice speed, one of the fastest in the game. So I think we already saw a preview. The next monster was actually Kaih. So let's go ahead and analyze Kaih while we're at it. And Kaih takes 7th place. So why 7th? Kaih, as you know, is also one of the fastest monsters in the game. 3, 4, 6, 5. That's crazy fast, right? And it's the same as Mommy. So why is Kaih in front of Mommy? Well, for one, Kaih has a really good trait, immune to freeze, which, like I said, is better than immune to possession. Not only that, Kaih has permafrost. It's an AoE freeze skill. Aside from that, she has a single freeze skill. But the best thing about Kaih is this skill, Protection of the Northern Winds. It gives your team a stun, freeze, and daze immunity. So just take a time to think about that. I think a lot of people, when they think about an immobilizer monster, and this is actually going to explain why this list is not a top 10 immobilizer, it's really top 10 overall. When you have a monster like Kaih, who can potentially go first, she can go before someone like Mommy, she can go before someone like Cabinfish, right? Cabinfish has a lower base speed, so Kaih can go before that, and instead of doing AoE freeze, which wouldn't work against a Cabinfish anyways, keep in mind Cabinfish is immune to freeze, you can do Protection of the Northern Winds. You give your whole team freeze and stun immunity. Guess what Cabinfish has? He has an AoE stun and he has an AoE freeze. So in Team Wars, water against water, if both of you had level 10 runes, your Kaih would go before your Cabinfish. And some of you might think the only way to immobilize the enemy is by immobilizing their deny monster. Well, you know what? If you give your team immunity to freeze and immunity to stun, you're technically immobilizing the deny monster without actually immobilizing them, because what you're essentially doing is you're making their immobilizer monster useless. They really serve no purpose. An immobilizer monster runs all speed runes, which means they have a low base power, so they can't really deal much damage. So if Kaih comes in the game, going first, does stun immunity, freeze immunity, guess what happens? Half the monsters that have stun and freeze skills, Kaih is faster than almost all of them. So they won't even have a chance to immobilize you. So then it's just up to your attacker to attack the enemy's attacker or to attack the enemy's deny monster. And when it goes back to Kaih, you have a single freeze, you have an AoE freeze. So she's incredibly good because she denies monster in a way that no other monsters deny it. She denies monsters by giving your team immunity to freeze and stun, two really popular deny skills. So that's why Kaih is in the top. And actually, let me switch over to the video again. If you guys recall who made the 6th place, let me press play. And I know this confused a lot of people. A lot of people were confused by this. It's Sarah. Why Sarah? Of all the monsters armor, how could you put Sarah in the top 10 list? That makes no sense. How could you do that? Okay, let me explain that. It's very similar to the logic I said with Kaih. So we look at Kaih. Kaih has a base speed of 3,465, right? Kaih has free skills. Lots of the good water monsters have free skills. Now, let's look at Sarah's base speed. 3,476. That is high. That's higher than Kaih. Sarah has a faster base speed than every water monster except Blob. So that means every single water monster is slower than Sarah with base speeds. So again, if we give each monster level 10 runes, level 10 speed runes, Sarah will always go before any water monster except for a Blob with all speed runes. I hope you guys are making the connection to what I'm saying. Let me scroll down to show you her skill. It is Red Wool Shield. Immune to freeze, immune to stun. She has the exact same skill as Kaih. She has the exact same skill. I should also mention she has an automatic immune to stun herself. So, Sarah does the exact same thing that Kaih does, but she does it better because she has a higher base speed. This means that no deny monster, no water deny monster will ever be able to deny your team, with the exception of General Thetys or Frostbite, who can deny one monster. But yeah, no AoE freeze will ever hit your team because of Sarah's high base speed. So this is why she deserves a spot. Again, this is not the top 10 deny monsters. This is not top 10 attackers. This is top 10 overall. And overall, when we think about Team Wars, number one, we just want to try to deny the enemy monsters from attacking us, right? That's the goal of the game. But you can't always do that because sometimes the enemy monsters are faster than you. But with Sarah, she is denying by giving your team immunity to freeze and stun. This is why she ranks top Is she 6? Yeah, this is why she's number 6. Because she can do this. No other monster can really do this. It's her and Kaih that have these abilities, and they're absolutely phenomenal. Like, Sarah, it would be impossible not to play Sarah. It'd be really unfair. And again, I have to emphasize, her base speed is higher than every water monster except for Blob. So if for wars you had common, nature, water, the general idea would probably be, I'll just run an all-speed water monster, right? All-speed, I'll deny. But what if your opponent has the same level speed runes as you? Then who's going to go first? Right? It depends on the monster. If you have Sarah, your Sarah would have all speed. Your water monster can be an attacker, so you can have the Blob with all strength runes, or some combination of that. You can use Hydrock, you can use a water monster, Lord Mammoth. There's so many water attackers that are never used. You can run Sarah with all speed. The enemy will run their water monster with all speed. And what happens? You do red wool protection. You basically rendered the water monster useless. For example, if they had Cavern Fish, well, what's Cavern Fish going to do? Hit you with an AoE stun? Too bad it's not going to stun anyone. Hit you with an AoE freeze? Oh, too bad. What about Kaih? Kaih can do the same thing. Oh, too bad. And let's not forget, she also has Woolly Smash, which is a 0 cooldown stun skill, and Woolly Crush, which does stun and gives her energy regeneration. So she'll never have to actually recharge. A super good monster. I think she's highly underestimated, and I think that's because people don't look at her stat. This is by far one of the best speed stats in the game. And actually, let me give you guys a really quick fact. This speed actually makes her tied for 13th place out of all monsters. There's over 150 monsters. I think there might be 152. So she's tied for 13th place with this speed. She's absolutely phenomenal. I do not know how so many people have underestimated her when she is a perfect counter against water monsters. Now, of course, she might not be the best counter against General Thetys, but you'll see later on, General Thetys does not have one of the best speeds. So if you ever did go up against the General Thetys, instead of using Sarah, you would obviously use another water monster who can deny. And yeah, it really is, again, it differs like subject to subject, situation to situation. So moving on, let me go back to the video. So next we have Glitch, right? Glitch is the next monster in the list, and now you're probably wondering, Armor, how the heck did Glitch make it onto the list? So let me explain that really quickly. Here we have Glitch. He's one of the newest monsters, and the first thing you notice is his base speed is 3,465, which is slower than Sarah, but tied to Kaih, tied to Mommy, tied to faster than Cavenfish, faster than Violet. So Glitch has a high base speed. It's tied with a lot of the best Dark Deny monsters. But the reason Glitch placed, and even placed above someone like Mommy, who has AoE stun, is because for one, he does have immune to possession. But the most important thing about Glitch is that he has the hidden gem. He has Kill Switch, which gives Corrupted. If you recall, Corrupted can go through anything. It goes through possession, immune to possession. It's basically a possession skill that can go through possession. This is why I think Glitch deserves a spot. You might be thinking, well, Armor, how come Atlas didn't get a spot? Or not Atlas, how come Bronzes didn't get a spot? Bronzes has Mega Stun. The problem with Bronzes is that he has such a low base speed that any of the monsters on this list can easily deny him before Bronzes gets a chance to use Mega Stun. Whereas Glitch, on the other hand, he has such a high speed that in a legit wars, if it was like anything involving Dark, he can possess anyone using Corrupted. And this is incredibly good because in any team wars, you know, like I said, it's some rarity, it's a legendary, and then you have a deny monster. If you go up against an enemy monster, an enemy dark monster, they'll typically tend to run Krampus, Razorface, Mommy. They'll run a monster that has like a deny skill, right? A possession. The good thing about Glitch is that it can go through possession, which means if you do kill switch on the enemy deny monster, there's a high chance that that monster is going to end up denying its own team, or you can try something different. Because Corrupted also gives Glitched, which increases the attack of the monster by 200%, you can actually try to possess the enemy attacker. So even if the enemy deny monster is successful and denies you, then you can use the enemy's attacker to hopefully kill himself or kill his teammates. So this is why Glitch deserves a spot. It's because it's a monster with a high base speed, with a good trait, that has a skill that no one except for Timerion is immune to. I mean, guys, come on. 15 monsters are immune to possession. That doesn't really matter because you have corrupted. That's as easy as I can say it. And if you're wondering why is Glitch ahead of Sarah, even though Sarah has a higher base speed, keep in mind, yes, Sarah is great, but her shield only grants immunity to freeze and immunity to stun, whereas Glitch, he's handing out a kill switch, which does corrupted. And yes, you could always argue, well, Sarah would go first and stun Glitch. But again, this isn't one-on-ones, this is overall, and I think overall having the ability to do corrupted on any monster, including all those magics and all those darks that are immune to possession, that's a really good skill to have. And then we're going to move on. Let me bring out the video again. Let me press play. Then we have Krampus. And the thing about Krampus is, I'm going to be honest with you guys, Krampus has the best speed for a deny monster in the game, or he has the best speed for an AoE deny skill. I completely butchered that. Krampus is the fastest monster with an AoE deny skill. 3,531. That is crazy fast. Technically speaking, if we're only talking about speed runes, like in a Dark and Water War, he probably wouldn't be the best because so many water monsters are immune to freeze. But against anyone else, specifically against water monsters, I don't think any water monster is immune to freeze. Or, I mean, scratch that. Specifically about dark monsters, I don't think any dark monster is immune to freeze. So if we're talking about just like dark monsters, Krampus obviously rules. And this is why I made a separate category for each element, like the top 10 darks, top 10 water, top 10 lightning. But then if we're talking about everyone, keep in mind, there are only 6 monsters that are immune to freeze, 7 if you include Timerion, 8 if you include Oros. But not that many monsters actually have immunity to freeze. And there's over 150 monsters, which means Krampus can essentially deny probably like more than 130 of them easily because of that incredible high base speed. And if that's not enough, so where's that AoE skill? Freezing Shadows, AoE freeze. He also has a single freeze skill, and he also has Poison Gift, which poisons the monster and gives 2 negative random effects, and Burning Gift. So Krampus, I mean, just on a who's the fastest deny monster, Krampus would take it. But the problem is there are monsters that can technically be better, just because, again, I mentioned there are still 6 water monsters. There are still 8 monsters immune to freeze. Okay, that's all you need to know. There's still 8 monsters who Krampus can't freeze. So then this brings into the question, who's better than Krampus? And this is honestly where it gets extremely subjective. So let me bring out the video one more time and let me play the video. After Krampus, I ranked General Thetys as being third, the top 3, okay? So why General Thetys in third place? And this especially becomes more complicated when you look at General Thetys and you see that she has a pretty low base speed. 3,421, that's rather low. Let's take a look at Violet. 3,454. Even Violet, our slowest deny monster on the top 10 list, is faster than General Thetys. So why is General Thetys in the top? And that goes back to the fact that she has Stamina Devours. It's an AoE, drains 100% of stamina. It's basically just that. She has the ability to deny any and every single monster. She also has an AoE freeze. It is, however, only 50%, and she also has the skill that recovers your whole team's stamina by 100%, and as well as gives you a damage boost. But, you know, the main thing about her is just the ability to drain 100% stamina. So even in a battle against like 3 legendaries, you're always guaranteed like a full denial. The attacker can't attack you, the deny monster can't attack you. But just one thing to keep in mind, of course, the enemy can still use their special attack, and that does seem to happen quite often. But realistically, if it was like a team of Dark and Water and it was Krampus versus General Thetys, a team with Krampus would technically go first, and if it could potentially land the AoE freeze. Keep in mind, she does have Tough, so there is the chance she won't get frozen. But again, any of these monsters, they are faster than General Thetys, but it's really just that skill that stands out. The ability to deny any monster is too phenomenal to not include. So that's why I think she would make it into the top 3. But again, it really becomes arguable here. I explained the way I did my rankings, my guidelines, and I put Stamina Devours above Freeze, above Stun, above Possession. So it is what it is. That's how I made my list. So we're going to continue things. Open up my video, press play, take a sip of tea. And on the number 2 spot, we have Frostbite. And you might be wondering, why Frostbite? So let me go over back to monster analysis. And if you notice, Frostbite has the exact same base speed as General Thetys. So he falls into the same problem that General Thetys does. He is technically slower than every other Deny monster here on this list and several other Deny monsters. So why is Frostbite ranked so high? The reason Frostbite ranks so high is because of this skill. It removes 100% of stamina from the target, and it also does an AoE freeze. And if that's not enough, he also has Piercing Rainfall. It's an AoE freeze. He has 2 AoE freeze skill, one of which drains 100% of stamina. And if that's not enough, he has Icy Leech. Icy Leech removes 100% of stamina from the target, and he recovers stamina. And if that's still not enough for you, he has Arctic Boost. It gives your whole team double damage and recovers your stamina by 50%. This monster is insanely good. Now, the main problem with Frostbite, and this is true, is that his trait is energized. He does not have immune to freeze, meaning that just about any other water monster, someone like Cabinfish, someone like Sphereness, someone like, maybe not, I think the only Deny monster that Frostbite is faster than is White Walker. Maybe Varna and White Walker. I think any other water monster, any other water Deny monster can easily freeze Frostbite just because of his low base speed. But again, the reason I would rank him high is because of Glacial Snowstorm. This works wonders. So in any Team Wars where it'll be water and any other element, let me give you guys another quick stats. There's 6 monsters that actually have immune to freeze, right? I'm not counting Timerion, I'm not counting Oros. The only other monster that has immune to freeze is a magic monster, Reptile. Reptile is the only other monster that has immune to freeze, who's not a water monster. And again, Oros, he has mountain, I'm not counting him. So meaning that in any Team Wars, you will only encounter one water monster if you're using Frostbite yourself. Which means all you have to do is do Glacial Snowstorm on that water monster and you've denied him, but you're also immobilizing the 2 other teammates. And then that enemy monster will have to recharge. And then if you want to, you can do Icy Leech and drain his stamina again. Like, Frostbite is just so good. That's honestly the best way to explain it. General Thetys and Frostbite are the only 2 monsters that can immobilize Timerion in this list. I mean, Galante and Blob, they also have the ability to immobilize Timerion. But from this list alone, just General Thetys and Frostbite can do that. So let me go on to the last monster, which of course you guys all know, is the one, the only, the infamous Timerion. So now you might be wondering, why Timerion? What is so special about Timerion? Well, you see, the thing about Timerion is, it's not his power, it's not his life, it's not his speed. If you notice, he actually has the worst base speed of all the monsters. He's slower than a lot of Deny monsters. And yes, you might be wondering, then why is he so good, Armor? Why is he so good? The reason he's so good is because of his trait. Keep in mind, I ranked this the top trait, Artifact. Timerion is not alive. It's an artifact. Status effects are useless against it. So in any given war, in any given battle, even if the enemy Deny monster is faster than you, whether it be AoE stun, whether it be AoE freeze, guess what? Timerion is immune to it, which means you always get a turn guaranteed with Timerion. The only exception are stamina drains. But no matter what the enemy throws at you, so even if they hit AoE freeze and they get your 2 teammates, Timerion will still get a turn in. And then you can respond with several moves. You have stop time to deny one of the enemy monsters. You can stop the attacker, you can stop the Deny monster. You have cooldowns activated. You can activate the cooldowns on the enemy monsters. And if you know the game, if you play the game for a long time, you kind of know when is the right time to do cooldowns activated and when isn't the right time. You have loop damage, which means even when the enemy monster attacks you, you can reflect that damage essentially and whatever negative effect it may inflict on you. And you have space time, which means you take no hits. So even if you get denied, because you have Timerion, you're still able to deny them back, which is crazy good. And that's honestly the reason Timerion is number 1. So when we reflect, keep in mind I said there's lots of monsters immune to stun, lots of monsters immune to possession, lots of Not that much monsters, but still a good handful. Monsters immune to freeze. Timerion takes the first place because he is immune to everything except stamina drain. And that's honestly it. This is why I picked the monsters that are in the top 10. So at this point, I will be taking questions. So if anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask. Let me put it onto the thanks for watching screen. And then I will close this. And let me get a sip of tea. My throat hurts. So if anyone has any questions about why a monster isn't on the list, why someone is on the list, or why didn't Monster X make the cut, go ahead and ask me now. I will be taking questions. Just to answer one question real quick, just to answer one question really quickly, here are General Atum's stats. His speed is 3,399. This is slower than Cabinfish, slower than Violet, or I mixed that up. Cabinfish, Violet. The reason Atum doesn't make it, yes, he has AoE freeze, or I mean AoE stun. Yes, he has a full life shield. Yes, he has hard as a rock. But again, keep in mind, this is overall, and the minute General Atum gets immobilized, it's just an easy victory. Let's see. General Nishin is good. I have her. Look, Frostbite sucks. Frostbite does not suck. General Thetys' pet. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at General Thetys' pet. It's like I said at the beginning of the video. It has to do with stats. General Thetys' pet. Yes, it has high speed, but look at that high power. You look at all the attacks. They're really attack based. This monster by itself would not really help you out much. If in a team with General Thetys, it'd do amazing, but by itself, Thetys' pet does you no good. I disagree. I was looking at Nishin's pet. I think Nishin's pet is one of the best monsters to be released. Does anyone have any questions on the top 10 list? Do you guys agree, disagree? What are your final thoughts? Do you still think attackers should be in there? Are life runes good for war? I have a life rune versus speed rune discussion video that you can check out. Life runes are good when your opponent has better runes than you. If your opponent has superior speed and strength runes, that's when I would use life runes. Hi, kitty. Why are you making so much noise? So I'm not seeing many questions on my top 10 video, explanation video. I think I might have to conclude this pretty soon. I still have to do Team Wars, so there's going to be another live stream for Team Wars coming up. I just need to recuperate my voice. The best attacker, in my opinion, would probably be... It'd be a tie between Zyla and Barbatos. I think Zyla would take it. I think the best monster would probably be Zyla and Barbatos. Excuse me. The best attacker would be Zyla, then Voltaik, then Barbatos. That's just going on my, what I can remember on their stats and skills, but yeah. What do you want? Where does Incognita fit in my list? Like I said, if you watch the stream, where do you think Incognita fits in here? Think about her stats, think about her skills, think about all of that. Where do you think she fits in here? So the reason, okay, I do have to emphasize this because this is really important. There's a select few monsters that are really, really, really good. And this is monsters like Blob, who doesn't get mentioned enough. It's monsters like Galante. It's monsters like ROFL even. These monsters are insanely good, especially in Team Wars. And I actually have to make a dedicated video just for them because these are the monsters that can potentially be better than even these monsters on this list. Just to give you a quick example, Blob and Galante, they have extremely high speeds. Blob is the fastest water monster, and they have a 100% stamina drain skill. Both of them have that. So in Team Wars, you'd be able to go before any monster like Violet, any monster like any water monster, any General Thetys, any Frostbite, even Kaih. You'd be able to go before any of them and just drain their stamina. And just like with Kaih and Sarah, you're essentially taking away their ability to deny you. So you're essentially denying their deny monster without, yeah. I mean, this time you are actually draining their stamina. So they are really good and they kind of deserve their own list. And for those of you that are joining the stream now, I just encourage you to watch the stream. I answered pretty much what my guideline was for selecting each monster, how I went about determining who was the best. I also explained the second half of the video why certain monsters placed and why certain monsters didn't place.